the power of connecting with our three brains when it comes to confidence. So often we think and feel, and we think it's all coming from our heads, when in fact there are three brains at play when we make a decision or if we try and move forward. And that is coming from the head, the heart, and the gut. We are whole when we bring in our whole bodies to make a decision. It's really struck me this week because I have two clients right now who are trying to make a big decision. And the decision is whether or not to apply for a promotion. And although they know in their heart of hearts that this is just the next step, and even if they were to get the role, that they have a choice, that they don't have to go for it or have to take it. But there's something about in their heads, and in particular in the left brain, that they are gripped with fear. And I talk about fear as this brilliant acronym: false evidence appearing as real. False evidence appearing as real. And when I get information from these clients, I see it because I know it was something that I would have done myself, and I still do. We live in a world that exonerates our head. Headquarters, head office, everything is about the head. Even this diary that people love, the head plan. I'd love to incorporate something like the head, heart, and gut plan and bring in all of us. It's not to dismiss our beautiful brains, our left and right hemisphere brains, but is it to include the intelligence of the heart and the gut. We are connected and vibrate from the heart space. And there's something around the heart always knows. And often the gut. I was speaking to an uncle of mine recently, and he has been in business for a long number of years and wouldn't have received a very high education. But he told me that his way to navigate life has always been through his gut, that he always had a gut intuition on whether something was going to be successful or whether to trust the person. And that if his gut had any off day or he just had an indication it wasn't right, he knew he wouldn't progress. And it's the power of, because in his mind, he hadn't received that top education, so he had to have something within him to go on. And I thought it was so beautiful because so often we revere, what we've studied or what we've learned in our mind, when it's our heart is the one that is going through the transformation. So if you are confused or trying to make a decision this January and this 2025, consider if you were to step into your heart. What would your heart say? What would your heart tell you? And if you were to talk to a future version of your heart, what it could say about the situation. Equally, if you were to step into your gut, what would your gut say? What would your gut tell you? And perhaps your gut is equally filled with fear because it knows that sometimes there's a cost to be had for our decisions. And sometimes it is, and the simplest way I view this through systemic coaching is a step to better. What would be a step to better? Our brain loves novelty. And our brain, if we feed it, and this is an NLP trick, it is telling it to be quiet first. So great NLP trick is actually telling the brain, shut the fuck up, shut up. And then take a breath. And then ask, because it will seek out novelty, ask the brain, what would be useful in this situation? And it might be speaking to somebody else. Sometimes it's hearing our words and letting them as somebody, a non-judgmental person, whether that is a professional therapist, a counsellor, a coach, or even you have that great friend that doesn't judge you when you have a concern or a worry. Speak it out, sometimes hearing it back, and if they play it back to you, you can actually hear the decision. But when the mind is what I call very heady, and you've had a tough few days, in Ireland, if you're listening to this, we've overcome a storm, there's some massive planetary changes, and sometimes it's not always the right time to make a decision. So knowing when it is, and it's the calmer, the spaces. And if you don't have that calm, you got to carve it out. You got to take the time, got to make the cups of tea and just sit down and reflect and meditate and allow the answers to unfold. But solely, don't rely on just the head or your left brain in particular to make these decisions. Your heart always knows best. And to quieten that fear, you got to breathe into it. Ask for help. And just know that if your 80-year-old self was to show up right now, what could he or she say about this situation? I hope this was useful. We're into the last few days of the confidence challenge. And you can tell I'm doing these later and later, and I didn't get to do one on Friday because of the storm. So it's not that my confidence takes a dip, but sometimes the fatigue and just the running of your own business, that I find that it's a lot to sit down and record these. So I apologise that I missed 2 so far out of the whole month, which is in the grand scale of plans not so bad. But for those who are religiously following these videos, I'm so deeply appreciative of you. And in an effort to thank you and with gratitude to you and all my followers, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or on LinkedIn, in particular Instagram, I am going to be giving away my biggest giveaway ever this Wednesday. And the giveaway is, well, you got to stay tuned. On Wednesday, I announce it, and it will be on my main page, on my Instagram page. But this is safely say it's worth the biggest amount of money, and it's the biggest giveaway I have ever done. And I have been coaching and running this business now, the business full time, obviously since July 2023. But I have been coaching for many years and I've given away lots of different prizes, but this is going to be my biggest one yet. So you've got to stay tuned this week. I wish you a wonderful last week in January. We're nearly there. It's been a long road. The world has really tested us between sickness, climate change, snow, storms. We've had it all. We watch what has been happening in the Middle East, in Palestine, in Gaza. We look at LA. It has been a particularly crazy January. So continue to go gently. And if you have a decision to make, listen to the heart, the head, and the gut this time. Take care, and we'll see you tomorrow.